folks, good morning. This is Scotty from Raising Fishes, and I have another thought for us to think about. And I had to write it down, all my ideas on paper, so I'm just kind of read off what I got, my thoughts about this subject. So here's the subject. Why is it that some fish tubers, YouTubers out there in the world are just not open to other ideas? It's my way or the highway, basically. So I can tell you from personal experience that I've made mistakes over the years. I've made small mistakes. I've made big mistakes. And I'm not afraid to admit that. Recently, I posted a video out there on YouTube, and I called it, "Are we being brainwashed by YouTubers in the hobby?" Oh my gosh, I never thought that video would go crazy. So as of this morning, over 8,000 people have viewed that video, and I've got tons of comments on there. From folks that are super technical, I mean, they wrote great big long paragraphs, to people that says, yep, right on, and then other folks are a little critical, but that's okay, That's what we're talking about. It's okay to have different ideas or different thoughts. That's the point of this video. But anyway, and basically in that video, I admitted to everybody that I was doing it wrong. My planted tanks, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 planted tanks total, and they're all heavily planted. And I don't do, or hadn't been doing water changes on them ever. I just topped them off. So in that video, I basically admitted that, even though my nitrates and pH and all that stuff was good all the time, the nitrates had never gotten high because of the plants. But when I checked the TDS, it was crazy high. So to me, TDS matters to me. It may not matter to anybody else, but that's just me, When I saw the TDS meter saying at 490 that it's not safe for humans, or maybe not so much not safe, just not good for humans at that high a rate. And in my tanks, I was at high 400s, and one tank was over 600. So, it's like, okay, let me do something better for my fish. So I've started doing water changes on my planted tanks. I did on all of them already. So that's where that part went to. So as an older person, I'm in my mid-60s. I've been doing fish keeping for a long time. There's no shame in the game admitting that you did something wrong. We all fail. If we don't fail, we'll never learn. So, and many of you out there on YouTube are willing to share their good, their bad, and their ugly, and that's good. That's really good. But they're also just the opposite. There's some other folks who are just adamant that you can't do it that way. It'll fail. There's trolls out there that'll tell you in your comments, "Oh, you're stupid," and all this stuff. Guess what? I just blow it off with the salt in the air, I guess you say. To me, people that are like that, they're just hard-headed, and it's a bad approach to the hobby. They're not helping anybody, out there in YouTube. We're here as a hobbyist to help others and share what we know, but you got to learn to think on your own as well, and it's what works for you. So let me provide you some examples of where you'll see these extreme from one end of the spectrum to the other. Prime example: how do you clean your filter media? Do you clean your filter media in tap water, or do you do it in tank water? Well, that controversy will get people fired up, because me, I'm a firm believer. I do all my filters, everything in tap water. The media, the sponges, you name it, sponge filters, everything is done in tap water. No problems. It's not an issue. So I don't know what the issue is, but some folks are adamant that you have to do it in tank water. Well, that's just not true. And it's been proven scientifically, not by me, but by smarter people than me. Go to Primetime Aquatics and talk to that channel, and you'll see. He'll prove it to you. So anyway, another hot topic: water changes. Water changes. You can go from the extreme where you're doing 5, 10, 20% water changes daily, all the way to like what I was doing in my plant tanks and wasn't doing any water change, just topping them off. So there's a big window there, but you have to do what works for you, and every tank is different. Even my tanks here, each one of these tanks are a little bit different in one way or the other. But anyway, and then we can go on. Substrates, okay? What kind of substrate? Planted substrate, sand substrate, gravel substrate, no substrate. I mean, it's all over the place, So here's my point that I'm trying to get to. You need to be willing to be open to listen to others, listen to their successes, listen to their failures, research what you're trying to do. If you want to try something new, then research what you want to do. Do some research, look it up, find reputable sources to get your information from, right? And try it. Don't be afraid to fail. I mean, it happens. We all fail, right? I'm going to give you a prime example of one of I considered a failure for me. So during my journey of fish keeping several years back, I tried discus. I love discus. Man, the discus are just beautiful. They're great looking fish. And you'll hear all sorts of stories that they're hard to keep and this and that. And then you'll hear others that say they're not hard to keep. And I don't know. I personally had problems with them. So let me tell you what I did. So I bought 3 or 4 discus, and I got them from a local vendor that was a breeder, and he only lives a few miles from me. So his water and my water is pretty much, the same. We're in Texas. But so when I got there and I talked to him this first time I ever bought discus, and I talked extensively to him. We were probably there for an hour and a half talking to him, and he was showing me all his fish, showing me his processes, talked to me about his water conditions. Now he was using straight RO water all the time in all his tanks. He was breeding them, and he had some beautiful discus, big ones, 7, 8 inches around, and babies, and I mean, it's just awesome. So I also talked to him about, his water, what kind of foods he's feeding these fish, just anything I could gather from him. So I bought the fish, and I tried to replicate basically what he was doing, so the fish were comfortable and were used to this kind of food and this kind of water. Now, I wasn't using 100% RO water like him. I bought an RO system, but it only does like 50 gallons a day, and I had them in a 75-gallon tank, so I didn't have that kind of water right away. So I was doing, about 50% RO and then 50% tap water, and then as I gained more RO water, I was doing water changes with more RO water than I was tap water. Anyhow, the fish did fine for about a year, and then slowly, one by one, they dwindled off and died. So I kind of basically gave up on them because, number one, the cost is very expensive, and I ain't a rich man, so I live on a fixed income. I'm retired, and so it's not like I can afford, a $80 fish, that keeps dying on me. So in my opinion, I failed at raising discus. Maybe some of you will say, no, I didn't fail, but for me, I feel like I failed, and I don't really want to keep discus because, number one, I just can't afford them, So, I mean, that was me. So, what we should do, we should learn from our failures. So we learn, we press on, try again if possible, or sometimes, we may take a different approach. Or we just do like I did with the discus, say, well, they're just not for me. Okay, I'm having problems raising them, so I'm just not going to do that, right? Either way, it's it is what it is. But I've come to believe, that most fish keepers, that have long time experience, they're very supportive of you, and they'll pass on some good advice for you, or they may even tell you that they've done the same thing, and they did good at it, or they failed at it, and they may give you tips or tricks that they did to make it work. But just remember, there's no shame in failure, folks. This is how we grow in our knowledge in the hobby. Sometimes it's trial and error. Other times it can be costly and irritating, even frustrating, But don't be afraid to try. Bottom line, for this video that I'm making this year, 2025, try to be more open-minded. Don't be afraid to try new things, right? Don't be afraid to fail. That's the biggest thing, If we didn't fail, we'd never grow, You'd never learn if you didn't fail. If every time you did something it was perfect and it worked just great, you probably wouldn't be living on this earth. That's all I could say. But, so folks, it happens to all of us. We all have failures, and there's no shame in failure. Take joy in your successes, and don't be afraid to share, your successes and your failures. You don't know that your influence out there on YouTube or TikTok or wherever you're posting your videos, you may be helping someone that's been in the same boat or is in the same boat as you, and you tried this and they tried it and it failed, or vice versa. You tried it and it failed, and they tried it and it worked, and you two can, through comments or whatever, and collaborate together and learn from each other, So just don't be afraid to be open-minded about things and try things new. So for today, we're just going to wrap things up. I want you all to have a blessed day. I love y'all. And this is Beam Me Up, Scotty. I'm out of here. All right. Bye-bye.